Steven.
Kevin.
David.
With our powers combined, we are the
Brothers
Born.
By the power of podcasting,
We have the power.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Brothers Born podcast. We are Kevin and I. It started turning into the Kevin and Steven podcast a little bit. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, a little bit. I tried to wake up Kylie this morning and have her with us again, but we were up kind of late last night. And actually, it's related to our most recent podcast with her. Remember how we were talking about that movie Bubble?
Yeah.
Kylie and I watched it last night.
It's an anime. I looked it up afterwards. I didn't realize it was an anime.
Yeah.
I am. That's cool. I've been watching an anime lately. I'm not sure if I told you this. Have you heard of Code Geass?
No.
I started watching it. It's on Netflix. It's a giant robot situation, but also this guy has a power. His one eye, if he looks at people, he can make them do whatever he wants one time. So that's
interesting.
It's interesting. As Brendan told me about it, and this guy I work with told me about it. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's two people who have invited me to watch it. So
You know what a fantastic anime is?
What's that?
Since we're talking about this, is it Cells at Work. You ever hear of this?
I started watching that as well.
That one's cool.
I watched the first 2 episodes, I think.
It's weirdly medically accurate.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Stephanie even watched that one with me, so I was like, "That's a win."
Bubble was interesting. It was kind of like a Little Mermaid sort of deal.
Interesting.
But with parkour.
Okay. Intrigued.
That's the best way I can describe it. Little Mermaid, but with parkour. Not like Disney Little Mermaid, but like actual Little Mermaid story, Little Mermaid.
Gotcha. You know, the one that Disney doesn't like to talk about.
Yeah. Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like a lot of Disney movies have like they change the endings of actual fairy tales quite a bit.
Yeah, they gotta make it like happy and kid friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Because the original Little Mermaid, it does not have a happy ending.
Well, does Bubble have a happy ending?
I guess happy in a way that any dramatic anime can be.
Oh, so it's not like a comedy.
No, it's definitely not.
Interesting. Okay. The concept, when you told me about it sounded like it was amusing rather than dramatic.
Yeah, it totally did. I was a bit surprised, but yeah, we watched it last night, and it was something. It was all right. A little weird, but it was all right.
Well, today we wanted to talk a little bit about amusing or awkward situations that we've been in, and then possibly then we're going to put each other in awkward situations and see how each of us would get out of that situation or manage that situation. And maybe some who are listeners, if you're ever in awkward situations, you'll gain some insight in how you can also get out of an awkward situation. So that's kind of what we wanted to explore today. Kevin, you had a story you wanted to tell. So I'll turn it to you. I
think I might have brought this up before, but it's one of my favorite amusing, like weird interactions I've had. I was in an elevator, and a lot of amusing things.
Someone farted.
No,
okay.
No, this isn't.
That'd be rough.
It wasn't particularly awkward. It's just really funny. I was in an elevator. There's another guy in an elevator, and there's another like a lady in there, I think. Anyway, I was working at a hospital, and there's 2 4th floors to this hospital. 4 mountain, 4 ocean were the 2 floors.
Wait. Floor mountain, floor ocean.
Yeah.
Well, so when you get off of the mountain floor, are you seeing a mountainous landscape? Or when you get off the ocean floor, is it a beach?
No, it's because the hospital, it's Tripler at Hawaii, and they built like the old hospital, but then they had to build an addition to it, but it's on the side of a mountain. So like the addition, because it's further up the mountain, like the floors didn't quite match up.
Like Elyria High School going into the Washington building.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So the 4th floor on one side of the newer part of the hospital was like a half a floor above the 4th floor on the old part of the hospital. So the old part of the hospital faces the ocean, and the new one faces the mountain. So that's
see.
4 ocean, 4 mountain. Anyway,
Okay. Interesting.
so I'm in this elevator, and this guy's in. I'm with this lady, and this guy walks in, and then he sees I push the button. I was trying to go 6th floor, so he sees I push the button on 6th floor. He's like, 6th floor? I'm trying to go to the 4th. And I'm like thinking, dude, like the 4th floor is on the way to the 6th floor. We will stop at the 4th floor, I promise, And then so he starts like just pounding the button like over and over again. Like that's going to make it go
4th
faster.
floor.
And so the other person in the elevator is just kind of looking all awkward at him. And she's like kind of walking away because, it's kind of weird. This dude just kept hitting this thing. He's like, oh, well, I'm trying to get to the 4th floor. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then, no, actually, I don't know. It was weird. We ended up not going to let me rephrase this. I think I was going to the 4th floor and he was trying to go to 6th floor. No,
okay. Either way.
I was a floor ahead of him. So I was on 6th floor. He was trying to go to the 4th floor. Anyway, so he's pounding on this thing, and this lady's all like just freaking out because he just keeps pounding this button like excessively hard. It's not going to get him up there any faster. And he's talking about how to get to the 4th floor, and then we get to the 4th. I think it was 4th mountain. I think it was because we stopped at 4 ocean, and he got mad about that.
I don't want to go to the ocean.
He's like, ugh. So he started pounding the thing again. The lady got off at 4 ocean. So he gets off. He gets off at 4 mountain, and he looks at me because I was going to 6th floor. He looks at me and was like, well, I'll see you later, you astronaut. And then he walked away. It was just really weird. I'm like, what is this dude's deal?
Astronaut. What were you wearing?
Well, nothing, but I was going to the 6th floor.
You were wearing nothing.
No, I was wearing clothes, but I was going to the 6th floor. So I guess because the 6th floor is closer to space. I don't know.
Okay. What's on 4th mountain where he was going?
I don't remember. I think most of our clinics were on 4. A lot of our clinics were on 4 mountain. Like the OB clinic was on there. There was a pharmacy there. I don't remember what. I think ortho. Was on 4
I'm
mountain.
trying to trying to understand this guy, this elevator wonder that you experienced. Maybe he had a medical emergency. He had to get to the 4th floor, so he was in a frenzy.
It could be because the emergency room was on 4 mountain.
So he's just like stressed out, saying weird things, just trying to figure out, like, I don't know. He's, how like when you go to a hospital, it's very stressful. Even if you work there, it's stressful. But if you're like a patient or you have a loved one in there, it can be kind of stressful. So he's just like, I want to. Like when you just get so frustrated, you just want to punch stuff. Maybe he's just a weird dude, but I'm trying to understand him.
And I think you can attest to this working at the VA.
Yeah,
there are a lot of really weird veterans.
Oh, for sure.
There's some people you're just like, what is going on with this dude? Like, I don't understand. And in hospitals, you find a lot of weird people. So when you have a veterans hospital, I mean, this wasn't a veterans hospital, but it's an Army hospital. So veterans were seen there. I think actually there was a veterans hospital attached to it. But anyway, when you have like a veterans hospital, you get like extremely weird people.
For sure. Yeah. And hospitals are already weird. Stephanie used to work in the emergency room in Elyria. And I don't need to say any more, actually. I could just leave it right there.
Yeah. No, you get some weird people for sure.
So my funny story, I'm going to take you back to the old mission days when I was a missionary in Australia. This is actually a collection of little miniature segments. It is a day. And in my mind...
Wait, hold on just for a second. When you said old mission days, for some reason I was picturing like an old mission from like in Mexico someplace or something.
That'd be pretty sweet. Like at not quite the old when I was elder born back in Melbourne, Australia. This was in a town called Seymour, which it's a great little town. I would go back there. My favorite area of my whole mission. But so this one day, I'm going to declare this day as No Pants Day. So I knocked on the door of one house, and this old dude with a big bushy beard answered the door, not wearing pants. It's like, all right, it's hot in Australia. This guy's old. Maybe it's hard to get pants on. I don't know. And I was like, oh, we started giving her a message. He's like, I'm not really interested, and close the door. I was okay, whatever. One guy, no pants. I'll move on. An hour or two later, we went to this other door. This old lady answered the door. Guess what? No pants. She's like, oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else. And she went back in, got pants on, then came out, and we chatted with her for a few minutes. I'm like, oh, that's a little weird to have two no pants people on the same day. And then a little bit later, another one. This one takes the cake of all of them, though. So yet the timing of this is essential. I knock on the door. This guy opens the door with a huge polo shirt on, but no pants. There's a bird that squawks in the background, like, ah! And he's like, right now is not really a good time. I'm sorry. And he closes the door. This dude had no pants on. There's birds squawking. I don't know what was going on. It was wild. And that was 3 people in one day, no pants. I was like, man, I should have just walked around with no pants today. Seriously. But
when I was in Belgium, we were driving one time down the road, and this wasn't in when it was hot. It was like in dead of winter. And I look out the window, and there's this dude walking down the sidewalk with no pants on. And like Tosh and I were like, why is that man not wearing pants? It's like, freezing out there. I don't understand what's going on with this dude. Why has he not got pants? And then so, that was after that, in which, because, Belgium it's a French speaking country. So it was at that point in which I decided I wanted to learn how to say, j'ai perdu mon pantalon, which is, excuse me, I lost my pants in French.
Weren't you kind of going to try and learn that in every language? That way, no matter where you were in this planet, you could say, excuse me, I lost my pants.
Yeah, because if you ever lose your pants, you need to let people know for sure. But French is the only, absolutely. French and English are the only 2 languages I can actually say that in.
You can't. I thought you could say it in German.
I probably could figure that out. And for the record, I don't know any other French. That is the only phrase I can say in French.
You taught me the word pourquoi.
Pourquoi, yeah.
That's just because it's fun to say. I never learned French. I took German in high school.
I did too. I don't
remember a lick of it though, other than I know how to say I want. Never mind. I'm not going to talk about it. I learned how to say dumb stuff in German.
I sure learned Spanish because there's lots of Spanish up in this place, but
same as me in Florida. Spanish. Lots of people speak Spanish here. But so those are 2 funny stories. What would you have done on a no pants day? Just out of curiosity, shed some light on why these people weren't wearing pants.
Well, I mean, it was hot. They probably just didn't want to wear pants. I don't know how Australians are. Maybe it was like a holiday or something. I don't know.
How about like the bird guy though?
I mean, well, he probably, like the bird probably made some sort of mess or something on his pants, so he had to remove them to, do some washing or whatever.
And that really would not be a good time.
Yeah, that actually explains that one quite a bit. He probably had like an accident with his bird.
And that's true. That happens a lot. I used to have a bird, and that thing crapped on me all the freaking time. And so it also would eat the hairs off my neck. Anyway,
I don't have I do have a rat that's been grooming me a lot lately, which is a little weird. You pick up the rat and it starts I don't know. It's kind of strange. Yeah, it's like grooming me, but that's a sign that they like you, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's good to have a rat grooming you from time to time. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to put each other in awkward situations now and see how you would manage it. So all right. I'll start with some simple ones. I'll each do a scenario or 2. So this has happened to everybody. I know it has. Okay. You've been working with somebody or you've met somebody several times. You've had several interactions with them, but you can't remember their name. And you're past the point where it's okay to admit that you don't know their name because you've had that many interactions with this person. You should really know their name, but you don't know it. So what do you call them instead? How do you tactfully figure out their name? What have you done in this situation?
Well, actually, I had something like this happen to me recently, which is incredibly embarrassing. Luckily, the person didn't realize it. Where I work, a person came in to donate plasma because I work at a plasma center.
Yeah.
And I had they had like I'm a nurse there, so I do like physicals and stuff. So I had a full blown conversation, did a whole exam and everything on this person, like a whole physical. And it wasn't until about halfway through it that I realized that they were somebody I work with at the plasma center that I was doing their physical at. Like, I mean, in my defense, she was a newer employee, so it's not like I had that many interactions with her. But it was just funny because, like these physicals can take up 20 minutes long, whatever. And I'm like I had a whole conversation with her, talking to her halfway through physical, and I was like, oh snap, she works here. And it's not like I work in a huge place where you wouldn't know. Like, you pretty much see everybody you work with there. So that was pretty funny. Luckily, she didn't catch on that I didn't know who she was. So, yeah. Usually something like that happens, I just go with like a generic, like sort of term of endearment, like, yo, bro,
Love,
or dude,
mate,
or friend. Like, oh, what's going on, man? What's going on, my friend? Because
there you go. That's good. And then that situation you're in, I mean, I'm assuming you could have saw her name on her chart on her computer or something like that.
even then, I had no idea. I saw her name right in front of me because I don't know a lot of people's names. Like, I'm bad at learning names. And like I said, she was a newer employee, so it's not someone I interact with like that much at that point. This was like 2 days ago, actually. But yeah, it was pretty amusing.
What about that point where you're pretty sure you know their name and you call them that name and it is not their name? How do you recuperate or bounce back from that?
That I haven't experienced. I have on the opposite side. I've had people call me all kinds of things that weren't my name, but I don't think I've ever had a situation where I was, calling somebody by a different name.
See, what I always just apologize. That's the easy way out. But there's probably like a fun, like a maybe you could be like, "Oh, I thought you were somebody else." But
I would
look good either.
roll with it. I would just roll with it, and I would call them that name all the time. Even if they corrected me, like, my name's actually John. Okay, Bruce. Or I would call them a different name every single time I saw them.
There you go. Like, hey, Jack. Hey, Tom. But like,
I had this classmate who, her last name started with, it was Foyer was the last name, because it's the Army, so everybody who went by her last name, but nobody could remember. They would always, like, our instructors would always give her different names. So her last name was Foyer, but they would call her Foyer or like Foyer. I don't know. I can't even describe, but they would call her different names. So it became a habit of mine. Every time I saw this person, I would call her by a different word that started with the letter F.
Foyer.
So I'd be like, what up, fool? Or I'd be like, or I was like, what up, fanatic?
Fanatic?
Or phonetic. Well, that actually starts with a P. But, like, I would just come up with names that start with, like, random words that came out start with the letter F. I would just bust them out and, like, call it. And it became like a funny thing. So she started doing it back, and every time she saw me, she'd call me by a different word that started with B.
B? Oh, because you're born. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's funny. All right, give me one. Throw one on me. What's the situation you think I could tackle?
An awkward situation that you could tackle.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like, I mean, something that
I got
everybody's been through.
Okay, so you're with somebody. I don't know whatever. It doesn't matter what the situation is, but you feel like you're like the you have knowledge about something. Like you're an expert on about something. Like, let's say someone, their car breaks down. This is just an example, and you legitimately feel like you can help them, but when you go to help them, you've discovered that you in fact cannot help them because you have no idea what the problem is.
This happens a lot, actually, to me. So 2 things. Like, I'm an audiologist, and I have I'm a doctor of audiology, and people often say, "Hey, I got this ringing in my ears. What's that about?" I tell them it's tinnitus. I give them a whole spiel, and then they say something like, there's no cure for it. Hearing aids help sometimes, but I wouldn't really cross that path unless you're really, really struggling, or if, there's generally nothing serious about it. It's just this annoying thing you have to deal with now. And there's a lot more to it. I'm just giving a little basic spiel here because this isn't a medical podcast. This is the Brothers Born podcast. But that's the problem. People think I know every little thing about tinnitus. And they're like, I notice I get tinnitus when I chew this type of gum.
Okay, man.
I don't have an explanation for you. Maybe there's some TMJ going. I try to parse through my knowledge from school. I'm like, maybe that's what it is. And I explain that to them, offering them false hope, but it's probably not really what's going on there. But
yeah.
Or what really gets me is this happened to maybe this happens to you too, since you work in healthcare. It's like, oh, you're a doctor? I got this problem with my clavicle. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I can't help you at all with that. That is not my area.
I do get that a lot because I think it's especially, this is true of nurses a lot because when you think nurse, you think healthcare, which is fine. But what people don't realize is a nurse's job isn't to diagnose disease. It's to it's a nursing diagnosis and a medical diagnosis are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Like a nursing diagnosis is more in terms of comfort of the patient, that sort of thing. You're looking at the comfort of the patient. How can you help this patient, get better? But you're not you don't prescribe the medication. That's the doctor's job. He's the one that actually diagnoses the problem. Yeah. But a lot of times people don't realize that. There's a big difference between a nurse and a doctor. So I get I'll get questions all the time and okay, hey man.
I think I've texted you things. I got this weird thing on my foot. What is it?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. And I always thought, and they're like, oh, well, my shoulder hurts, but only when I do this. I'm like, okay, you're better off seeing your doctor, man.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. You have to see a doctor. And I get that a lot. And then, yeah, it's frustrating. Or when I was a medic in the Army, a lot of times I would get a soldier come up to me like, hey, doc, what does it mean when? And whenever someone said that, one of two things, if it was a male soldier, 90% of the time I was probably going to see their genitals in a short period of time. What does it mean when what do you when this happens? And the other time it would be something I have no idea at all. What does it mean when your eye itches?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
With the ear, people are like, oh, my ear's just it's itching. I'm like, okay, it could be earwax, probably dry skin. And I can help with some of that stuff for sure. But then they'll go on tangents and I don't know. Yeah, it gets over. It's hard. I want to have all the answers, and I think but I also can't crack open the textbook and look at every single thing for every single patient. So it's people listen to this who know me and be like, man, I've never seen him. I'm never going to go see him as my audiologist. But you try and triage to the best of your knowledge in that moment in time. And sometimes you don't have an answer, and you got to be like, hey, I don't have an answer on that. I'll try and look into it. That's a good thing. That's always a good way of approaching it. I don't have an answer right now, but let me do some research. I'll get a better answer for it. And I do that in a lot of situations.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, these are problems that David would never experience
well, not entirely. Think about this. I've done this with David before. I'm like, hey man, I got this. I want to transpose this song into a guitar. And he's like, because dude, the French horn and all these instruments are different clefs. Do you know that? You got treble clef, bass clef, the violas and alto clef. And so it's all these different things. And the French horn, for example, I had to do this activity once where I wanted to play this kid at a French horn song, and I wanted to play an accompaniment with my guitar. The French horn's tuned in B flat. So the chord, everything is entirely different. And David, he's a really good musician, so he knows, but it should take him some time to try and transpose it for me. I'm sure that happens sometimes with music stuff.
Well, hey man, I mean specifically medical.
Oh yeah, no. But every professional, no matter what you do for your living, even people who are the masters of their field, you're a human being. You don't know everything.
Yeah, no,
you gotta be okay with that.
I did approach David with a question one time. I was talking about the 1812 overture when they used the cannons, and I asked David, I was like, "So is that a percussion instrument, or is it a woodwind? What type of instrument is a cannon?"
What was it?
I don't remember what
was it a cannon? They actually fire cannons at the concert.
Yeah, they do.
Sweet.
They do. For sure. The 1812 overture. Yeah, they actually fire. I mean, obviously they're not shooting cannonballs into the crowd or anything, but yeah, they actually fire cannons. And you see 4th of July on a military base, you always see that because they have the cannons available on a military base. So a lot of times they'll do 1812 overture and they'll play real cannons.
But I've been guilty of this too, though. Like I have a friend who works on cars a little bit, and I'd be like, "My car's doing this thing." He's like, he does the same thing. Like he like has a couple ideas, but he doesn't know for sure. And it's like because he's not. It's not like his main thing. He just knows a little bit more about cars than me. So he knows. I mean, so I do the same thing to other people, and they usually say the same thing. Like I suggest I don't have an answer right now, but let me do some more testing and figure it out.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, it's outside, or it's okay to say it's outside my purview. I'm going to recommend you to go see this guy over here, and they might be able to help you better.
Like you're better off seeing a doctor, man. Like
that happens a lot with ear, nose, and throat doctors. So I'm an audiologist. I work with balance disorders and hearing loss. But a lot of the more medical things, like an actual true and blue ear infection, that's not me. That's a ear, nose, and throat doctor. Totally, and like I know how to identify it, but I can't say, hey, you got this type of otitis media going on. Like I can't do that. It has to be the medical doctor that does that. And sometimes people get us confused, which is, if I wasn't in the field, I would probably wonder why I would be confused by that too. So
I do have a question. Have you ever run into this? Because, I'm sure you deal with people and their medications sometimes.
Sometimes.
Have you ever run into like, you ask a patient what kind of medication they're taking and they throw in I take a blue pill. I take like a big white one. Then I have like this red and blue one. And you're like, cool, that doesn't help. And then you're like, all right. And you're like, well, I take a blue pill and that's for my cholesterol. Oh, wait, it might be for my hypertension. Like,
yeah, I don't run into it too much. I'm mostly concerned about, if they have blood thinners, I have to be extra careful when I take earwax out of their ears. So I usually ask them about, and I know those pills, but I don't know what, I know what you mean. Like I take a blue pill on Wednesday at 5:00, red pill on Tuesday at 3. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Cool, man.
Sweet. Or, it's funny. That's a good, we kind of got on a tangent there, but that's I think the best course of action when someone approaches you with something that you thought you knew how to help them, but maybe you bit off more than you can chew. It's okay to say, hey, I don't have an answer right now. Either A, see this guy, or B, let me go find out for you. But I can't manage this right in this moment. That's an appropriate answer, I'd say. All right, let me lay one more on you. Let's see here. This is one that happens to me a lot. Sometimes, on this podcast. Just kidding. When you're telling a story and to a group of people, and in the middle of the story, you realize that no one's actually paying attention to you. So what do you do? Like you're telling a story, you're really excited about it. You've built up all this excitement about, hey, this is going to be a really funny story, or it's a really good story. You're going to like it. Then you notice they just kind of aren't paying attention. How do you navigate that?
I do it one of two ways. One, I just stop.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough.
Which is probably the most acceptable way. Or other times, I'll just say something completely off the wall and bonkers to try to draw them back in. I'd be telling a story and then I'd throw in then the cow was kidnapped by an alien, or just something completely off the wall, out of there, not even in the realm of what I'm talking about. And when I do that, either they kind of chuckle and listen, or they just continue ignoring me. But either way, it's amusing.
It kind of reminds me, is a little bit different, but on another mission story, I was knocking on a door, and they're like, right now it's not really a good time. The cat is pregnant, and there's food in the attic. I was like, okay. I don't know why that's qualifies it. I mean, I think you could just tell me you're not interested. That'd be better than the cat is pregnant and there's food in the attic. Like, what are you even speaking about? So it's kind of funny. But yeah, I like your approach. Yeah, it's more fun to do something totally bonkers. They just kind of scratch their head. Then you really know if it's a really good way of telling if they're paying attention at all. Or more than likely, like me, I'll just kind of slowly get quieter and just stop talking and working on something else. It always hurts a little bit when that happens, like you're telling a story, you're really happy about it, but no one seems to care. And that's sad. It's very sad.
I care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is an open platform. When we're podcasting, we're listening to each other.
Sorry, what were you saying?
All right. Give me one more.
All right. I think this is kind of significant in realms of driving in traffic, but not necessarily. When you like you're in a situation, we'll use traffic example, but it applies to other things too. Like let's say someone does something that really irritates you, and so you're like want to give them the finger and you want to like yell, but then you realize that whatever happened was actually your fault.
Man, that's when I just kind of break and kind of get as far away from that person as possible, either by getting way in front of them or way behind them.
And I think
I'll like do something. I'll do something kind of like cute, or like I'll give them a thumbs up, or like flex my muscles as I drive past them, or something. Just something like, "Hey, I'm an idiot, and it's okay."
It doesn't have to necessarily be traffic. So there's like other times where I've like, I can't think of any good examples right now where I've done something completely wrong and just assumed that the other person was wrong, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, that was my fault. Sorry. This
was fun. Awkward situations. Hopefully, listeners, you gained some insight on these couple situations where strategies you can use. Or honestly, I mean, it's nothing really new. We didn't reinvent the wheel here, but hopefully you gained some knowledge, some confidence that you are not the only one who struggles with situations. And I'd like to revisit this segment from time to time. I think it's a fun one. So we'll bring it back at a later date.
I bet you David has some pretty funny stories.
So this was that. Go ahead.
Because he's been like a teacher, and he's like a teacher, so he's probably has some pretty funny, amusing things.
Yeah. So next time on Awkward Situations, brought to you by the Brothers Born podcast. Well, maybe not next time, but we'll talk. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this.
Yeah, we will eventually get back to our normal kind of shows that we have started this season with. David's just been kind of unavailable lately.
Yeah, so into the school year.
Yeah, hopefully that will change soon now.
Yeah, and then the summer is going to be a little bit easier for him, so we can kind of get back into it. And we're going to be bringing a couple more guests on. It's going to be great. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yes, we will.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Brothers Born podcast. Kevin and I talked about some awkward situations. We all get them. We all get in them. Hopefully this sheds some light on ways you can get out of those situations yourself. I want to clarify, I don't know if the French horn is actually in the key of B flat. I looked it up, looks like it might also be in the key of F, so I apologize to any of my French horn players out there. Share our show with your friends, like us on Facebook, give us a good review on iTunes, we would sure be grateful. And if you want to get a hold of us, check out our Facebook page or email us at brothersbornpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. All right, everybody. Catch you later.